Before I jump in, I just want to say, you look around this room, the quality of people in this room right now is just bar none. And it's a reflection on Nick and Nikki, and we love them both very, very much.
Love you too, Ed!
So, this story begins like many stories begin at a bar on a summer night. And to begin our conversation about Nick and Nikki, or Nick in the plural sense as we call him, I ask everybody to close your eyes, picture a hot summer night in Quincy, Massachusetts. Now, everybody just transport yourself to that bastion of high culture and good taste. Picture Bud Light, bad tattoos, drunken women singing Journey, don't stop breathing at the top of your lungs. Everybody there? Okay. So, you might ask yourself, why is this guy up here talking about that? And the reason why I say that is the first meaningful period of time I've ever spent with Nicole Capodilupo, as we always will affectionately call her, Nikki Bush, one word, was at the Beachcomber in Quincy. And we were there to see our good friend Dean play. He's a formidable performer, with his band, and we were having a great time. But it was the first time that we had went out together. And when you go to the Beachcomber in Quincy, one of the things that happens sometimes is you get robbed. So Nikki, being one of the sweetest people I ever met, she left her purse on the back of a chair. And lo and behold, it was time to pick up and take off, and her purse was gone. And the reason why I bring this up is that, as I watched I was kind of sitting back and watching this whole thing play itself out. And I saw Nick, obviously, the picture of concern. He sprang into action. And I saw Courtney, Dean's wife, jump up to help. And Gina, my sister, jump up to help. But the whole time, what I was doing, as I'm wanting to do, because if any of you know me, I'm not really one to talk a lot. I'm more one to just watch. And I said to myself, okay, I'm going to watch how Nikki reacts. And I sat there and I was watching Nikki, and even though my first feeling was empathy, I was like, okay, I'm going to watch her. And as we all know, especially as we get older, it's the little things that are the big things. But the way that she acted, she was calm, she was graceful, and she was in a strange, weird place with a bunch of people she didn't really know, but she didn't let anybody see her sweat. So, we found the purse. It actually was in the trash can in the bathroom. We went on our way, but as we drove home, I thought to myself, you know what, this girl's all right. That's what I thought to myself. And to bring us up to today, literally every single thing that I see her do, my instinct was right. My instinct was right. And, as far as that goes, her generosity is real, and it's all the little things. If I'm over at their house and she doesn't waste a second, hey, you want to stay for dinner? She grabs a plate, she doesn't even wait for me to answer. Things like that. One thing I love about her, she's a woman after my own heart. She never talks if there's nothing important to say. She realizes that when you're really friends and you're comfortable, comfortable silence is a beautiful thing. Right? And I love that about her. Furthermore, she'll never refuse a drink if we're sitting there, but the way she accepts it is always unbelievable. It's with grace, and it's just always great. And then, furthermore, what I've seen her do over the years is, just the way that she thinks about and reacts to, all the little kids in her life. Just a small detail, like when she picks out a gift for Hunter or Bela, it has to be perfect. It's because it's the little things. And when she takes care, she picks up my little niece Adriana, it's as effortless and as right as if it was her own daughter. And it's amazing to watch, and Adriana likes her so much and so comfortable that she literally goes to the bathroom every time Nikki comes in. So that's something. Really, at the end of the day, Nikki's selfless, she's classy, she's considerate, she's confident. All these things describe her, and that's why we love her. And, not so coincidentally, they also describe my brother Nick. So, I know for a fact that it couldn't have been easy for Nick to grow up my brother. You know, there's a running joke in my family that I was born serious. As a matter of fact, you know, my mom can tell you I have a few pictures when I'm like in probably second grade, I'm like 7 years old, and I look like I'm contemplating the fate of the universe, basically. And I always sort of approach everything in life with this sort of grave severity and focus. That's kind of just the way that I am. I always was that way in school, and I always was that way with sports. And basically my sister's the same way. So for Nick, it had to be really, really difficult for him. But, you know, what I can say about Nick is that despite all this baggage that he had to carry, he always had the courage to be himself. And as anybody who knows that the stories of his childhood were never less than legendary. So we'll just run through a couple of them now for comedic value. But, you know, one was when he was a little kid and he was in the Christmas pageant. He was supposed to be a shepherd who was supposed to react in awe at the light of God on Christmas Eve. And like a young De Niro, he half stopped the whole play because when the light came down, he sprawled out in awe in front of the entire church. So that was pretty good.
Bright light at.
Bright light. That's right. Another one which was classic for any film fans in the audience was when we watched Die Hard, and then later on that afternoon. A cop showed up at the house and said, "Hey, excuse me, we have somebody called 911, and they said that they need backup now by the end of the night." So my dad and I thought that the guy was wrong or crazy or both, and so we said, "No, sir, no, nobody did that." And then about an hour later, Nick kind of casually mentioned that he saw that on Die Hard, and so he had to call the police that night. And then another time, there's a lot of these, this will be the last one. Another time we were down on Cape Cod, we were playing mini golf with our aunts, and Nick wasn't really happy with the score that he had, or I forget exactly what it was, but I think it was he made a bad shot. So.
No, Gina hit me with her club.
Oh, okay. So he proceeded to throw his club and his ball, and he almost hit a poor little girl in the next hole, and the girl's father chased after us and tried to kill us, and my aunts, rightfully so, they kind of ushered us into the car like they just witnessed some international incident. And it still is probably the first time and the last time that my aunts ever were mad at Nick. That was another one. So the reason why I bring these things up is that Nick never was afraid to be himself. You know, despite the fact that the thought of doing any of these things would never have even crossed my mind. And when I say never have crossed my mind, I mean like if I was dreaming and unconscious, I wouldn't even have thought of doing it. But, sorry about that. Regardless, everything he did, you know, was on his own. And somehow, even though we're so different, we just remain to be really just so much the same. You know, he's been my best friend ever since I can remember. And, you know, the way that I would put it, to somebody who doesn't really know both of us that well, is that all the best things in life, those are the things that we've really shared together. And it's really true. You know, when he was my tag team partner, when we used to wrestle like our dad when we were little, it wasn't really wrestling, it was more like ambushing. And, you know, we broke a lot of couches doing that. But, you know, Nick's compete level was always through the roof. And we always gave our dad a good fight for a while, until he body slammed us on the couch. You know, we played Nintendo side by side for hours on end. I was player 1, he was player 2. You know, we threw a lot of controllers, threw a lot of games. Probably sounded like there was some sort of terrible murder going on when we were playing, but we did that every day. You know, we learned about music together. That's one of the big things that keeps us both together. We've probably been to maybe 100 concerts together, and the funny thing about us is we're kind of, in each other's eyes, we're sort of the only critics that really matter. We're sort of judge, jury, and executioner, and everything we hear, we both look to each other and we say, okay, is it good, is it great, or is it bad? And, you know, for the longest time, it's our own opinion. Our own opinions are really the only thing that matters. One more thing that has always been a big pivotal part of our lives was that we had the great fortune of being at so many amazing sports things together, amazing sports events. You know, we were at the Tuck Bowl game in the Snow Bowl when Adam Vinatieri won the game. We were sitting on the 50-yard line, and it was amazing. And you know, it's funny the things you remember. It was snowing so hard that we couldn't find the train when we left. We almost got stranded there because you couldn't see 20 feet in front of you. And then by the time we got the train and it came back, our cabbie almost crashed about 4 times. But it was just a great experience, and we were there together. You know, so really to kind of move this along here, you know, along this great journey that he and I have been on together, something sort of interesting happened where Nick sort of grew into what I consider, you know, a better version of me in some ways. As John Updike once wrote, if you have the guts to be yourself, other people will pay your price. And that's how he lives his life. And you know, that little boy is still in him. He's impulsive, but in a good way. He's thoughtful, but he doesn't overthink anything. He's eloquent, but he's never flowery. And his own sense of right and wrong is so ingrained in every fiber of his being that it's just not even a question. If he thinks something's right, that's what he does it. If he thinks that it's wrong, then he doesn't. And that's just the way that he is. So, you know, I'll never forget when Nick was in 9th grade and I was his confirmation sponsor. You might remember this, you might not. But it's one of those things that we kind of just had to go to go. And we were sitting in a little group together, and we had to go around the room, and the candidates had to say something about their sponsors and why they picked them. And Nick, in his own way, basically just said to the group that he looked up to me because of the way that I carried myself. And, you know, if he tried an entire lifetime, he couldn't have paid me higher compliments. The catch is, as you probably can tell, the whole momentum of this thing is that when all is said and done, it's really me who looks up to you. To conclude, just a little anecdote that was kind of fun. We went to Vegas. A bunch of us, actually, I think every single person who was here, 11 guys were there about a month ago. And that's a different speech for a different time. But it's just funny how sometimes things happen. So we were there for 3 glorious days. That's how I would characterize it. And that morning we were rolled out of bed and we had to leave, and I had to go check out, and we had about 5 or 6 rooms that we'd booked, and it was an act of Congress to check out. But the woman who was there was just one of these just really nice people. She had a really kind face. You could tell she was a wily veteran in Las Vegas, and she was going through the bill, and she eliminated some of the charges for us. And then after a while, I was sitting there for like literally a half an hour, so I struck up a conversation. And she said, "Oh, why are you here?" And I told her why I was there, and she was so smart and she was so funny. And she said, "You know, are you worried about having to give a speech?" And I was like, "Yeah, you know, I really care about the boat so much I don't want to mess it up." And she said, "You know what? I tell people this all the time." She's like, "All you gotta do is, whether you read it or not, just look at the bride and say to the bride that, you know, basically, this is my best friend, and now he's your best friend. I'm giving my best friend to you." And you know, she's pretty smart, right? So, Nikki, and I say this, and it just feels so right, and I feel so content. And basically, Nick, my best friend, is now your best friend, and I would not have it any other way. So,
bravo!
Let's all raise our glasses, whatever we have, and we wish these 2 wonderful people all the happiness in the world. Salud.
Good job, Eddie. Good job.
Big round of applause for Ed.